Al tells me.
He's the official timekeeper.
It takes me 5 seconds to stand up.
All right, meeting called to order. Stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, a number of items here today. First of all, I just want to say this morning we had a very exciting time in this very room. At 11 o'clock, there was a news conference held announcing a project for the Hardee's Block in downtown Winona. It's a $25 million project that includes a Montessori preschool, it includes housing and retail, underground parking for the project, and the developer was here, Bob Kierlin, and this project is going to be hopefully taking off here very soon, and I think it's going to be a big boon for downtown Winona, and we're all very excited about it, and we're very grateful to Mr. Kierlin for his vision and support for the city in which we all live. So thank you very much. Also want to point out that last week, attending Project Fine, their annual meeting, the city was awarded the Project Fine Partner of the Year Award for 2017 in recognition of our commitment to diversity. So this is the award. Some of you were there, and I just wanted to share it with those of you that weren't able to be there. Also want to mention that coming up is one in a series of events for the city of Winona. I know I have it here. It's called Cabin Fever Festival, and last Sunday there was a not so floating event at Lake Park Lodge, which was fun. We had a band there, and a couple hundred people skating. It was pretty well attended and a fun event. And this is another one coming up on March 2nd and 3rd at Holzinger Lodge with it's all free. A couple bands Friday night. Family game day during the day on Saturday. Blooming Grounds will be there with food, and Island City Brewery, and at least in the evening during the trivia night team play. So lots of fun stuff at Holzinger Lodge, sponsored by the city of Winona. And then I also have a couple proclamations I'd like to read. The first one is for School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. From early morning to late in the evening, from highways to county gravel roads, from sub-zero morning temps to warm spring afternoons, and probably add ice-covered roadways today. Winona school bus drivers safely transport more than 2,700 students daily to and from school each day. And whereas school bus drivers are important figures in a student's school day, beginning with a positive influence from the moment the student boards the bus and every evening before they return home. And whereas our school bus drivers travel almost 1 million miles each school year to transport our students within our district to and from school, and whereas students are nearly 8 times safer riding to and from school in a school bus than in cars, thanks to rigorous safety standards for vehicles, drivers, as well as student training efforts. And whereas we salute and appreciate school bus drivers every day and recognize the invaluable contributions they make to the education process. Now therefore I, Mark Peterson, Mayor of Winona, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, February 28th, 2018 as School Bus Driver Appreciation Day in the city of Winona. And I think there's 3 bus drivers here tonight: Laverne Olson, Francis Bowers, and William Conrad. So if you would like to have this proclamation, I'd be happy to give it to you. Come around. Thank you for all you do for our students.
Photo op.
Count 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Thank you.
Another one to read. This one's a little more unusual, to say the least. Whereas hot dish is a budget-minded casserole, a characteristic dish of the upper Midwest, which typically contains a starch, a meat, and a canned or frozen vegetable, mixed with canned soup, wherein hunger is the most commonly used spice. And whereas Outpost Winona is a community studio, a host of visionary, electric, and vibrant makers and doers in the heart of downtown Winona, and host of the first annual International Indoor World Hot Dish Championship. And whereas KBRRR is an aspirational radio station, a dream from within the heart of February, a tender road salt dusted signal emanating from the beautiful bluff country of Winona, bringing more wattage to your cottage, and a sponsor of the above championship. And whereas the aforementioned contest will be open to any and all chefs, regardless of comprehension of hot dish or cooking competence, and whereas trophies will be provided in the categories of least recognizable, grandma's special, most startling combination, creative use of tots, as well as the coveted People's Choice Award, and more. And whereas this event is likely to beat winter blues and banish the threat of boredom, now, therefore, I, Mark Peterson, Mayor of Winona, do hereby proclaim Saturday, February 24th, 2018, as International Indoor World Hot Dish Championship Day in the city of Winona, Minnesota.
Wow.
And Matt Fluharty, I believe, is here. Can I present this to you, Matt? Oh, I guess I have to sign it for her. I don't know if I signed, did I sign yours? Okay.
Take a picture of that.
Sure.
They didn't bring hot dish with?
We wanted a taste. Where's the hot dish?
Oh,
So the championship will be at 119 East 3rd Street in Annapolis. All our events are free and open to everybody, so please come on down. It starts at 5 on Saturday.
I'll be out of town.
That was so hungry.
Oh, absolutely.
Wattage to your cottage. They can have a goose on it.
That's what they should call it. Goose.
Make it $3.25 for an hour.
They should cook goose next time, we were just saying.
Mr. Mayor, you should enter with semi-wild Lake Winona goose on.
Sterling combination.
Lake Winona Goose Hot Dish. Okay. All right.
With egg bits.
And that's,
That was gross, who said that?
that, folks, is all I have. So we'll go to the city manager.
You get all the fun, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Just a couple of meetings. On March 6th, there will be a, what's called a business blitz as part of our energy action plan. John Howard and his new intern, Sarah, who is working from some money that we got from Excel and CERTS, will be meeting with businesses and setting up opportunities for them to go through and do energy audits for them. So again, that's March 6th, and from there, there'll be individual appointments made. And then on March 27th, All Aboard Minnesota is going to have a meeting in town, or several meetings, some with local leaders and some with the public. So keep that on your calendar. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Councilman Thurling.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Alexander.
Here.
Iden. Here. Borzakowski.
Here.
Scholmeyer.
Here.
And under the petitions, requests, and communications, item 3.1 is appointment to the Recreational Waterways Commission of Tori Moore.
Move to approve that appointment.
Second.
Motion by Michelle and seconded by Paul. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.2, appointment to the Cable Television Commission of Ron Dempsey.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.3, an application for mechanical amusement device license for Huffmania LLC, doing business as Ed's No Name Bar.
Make a motion to approve that license.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Jerry. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.4 is an application for on-sale intoxicating liquor licenses for Fast Eddie's. This is for Ed Marino, doing business as Fast Eddie's at 500 West 5th. The license would be effective March 1st through June 30th, and Mr. Marino is here if you have questions.
Make a motion to approve that liquor license.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by George. Any discussion?
Is he, you said he's here? Well, anything you want to tell us, or?
I wanted to buy it 12 years ago, and I couldn't.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Al?
Yeah, that's definitely a neighborhood gathering place. I grew up in that neighborhood, so it's good to see that it's still in local hands and going forward. So good luck and much success to you in the operation.
That's where I used to see you.
Yeah.
All right.
Ed's 500 and the 500
Okay.
Club. and
Pam?
all that.
Yes, I have a question as to why the license is only for March 1st through June 30th. Why? Only
So
for a
Mayor
few
and
months?
Council, all of our liquor licenses expire in June, and under state law, they all have to have the same expiration date.
Okay.
So he'll renew again in May.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
And item 3.5 is a request for a premises permit for lawful gambling for the Goodby Winona Area Youth Hockey to be used at Fast Eddie's 500 West 5th Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jerry and seconded by Michelle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.6 is a request for a utility bill reduction at 477 West 5th Street, and this is Mr. Joe, help me out, Seska? Seska.
Did the homeowner wish to say anything?
My name is Joe Seska. So this is a request for a reduction of utility bills, specifically the water bill. We're gonna have a minute to explain. I bought the commercial building 2 months ago, and I've been updating it since. Everything's been going pretty smooth until about 10 days ago. I got a call from the city of Winona, the water department. And they notified me that the water usage was up about 10 times, which is quite significant. Long story short, there was a toilet running the entire 3 months. So that was a hefty bill. And it was actually, looking at the water usage, you can see in November it actually spiked up to 6,900. So that's actually a month before I bought the place. So I guess my main argument is I'm just looking to get that reduced down since it was an ongoing issue before I even bought it. I quickly resolved the issue. I installed new toilets, faucets, everything's all efficient now. And I guess I'd rather use those, that huge bill and use that money towards further improving the building. I guess that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions?
Just have a question regarding the information in our packet. The account is listed under, what is it here, DTF Properties, and then the City of Winona bill is Circa Properties, so I'm just kind of
Yep, so
trying to
DTF,
resolve
that
that.
was the previous owner. I own the Circa Properties.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm the owner for that.
So is any recourse that you took regarding the previous owner after you discovered this and purchased the property?
I have not contacted him, and I mean, I understand, you know, buying the property, obviously, I would assume, you know, you are liable for, you know, water bills or anything, but my point is, it was just kind of an issue before, in November, before I bought it in December. So I guess if I could do, you know, some type of, like, what the quarterly average was, instead of getting the hefty full portion of the bill, that'd be appreciated.
So was this in a rental unit, or was it in the commercial part of it?
So it was, so there's 4 apartments upstairs. I went through all the apartments, and one, like I said, one of the toilets was constantly running for those whole 3 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a lot of water usage. So all those have been fixed and updated. So yeah, it was the apartment portion. So that's why it's kind of tricky to, you know, I've been, you know, in the building the last 2 months, but it's just a hard thing to find.
Was the rental unit occupied?
Sorry, what's that?
Was the rental unit occupied?
It is, yes, yeah. So they're all
So
occupied.
the tenant didn't notify you or the previous owner that?
Unfortunately, no, yeah, and that's what's actually kind of nice from the city of Winona to send out those notifications once there's, you know, high usage. Otherwise, I'd have had no idea, so I'm glad you guys do that.
Mhm.
Well, I gotta say something. I'm not gonna make a motion, and if anybody does, or if they don't, every time these come in front of us, I vote against them anyway. So depending on how this one goes, and if it's negative, at least I'm being consistent, so at least you know where I'm coming from.
Pam?
Yes, I would like to move to reduce the bill by the amount of the sanitary sewer fee.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion from Pam and seconded by George to reduce the sanitary sewer fee. Any further discussion?
You do realize this is a commercial property. And all the other ones that come up, it was always something different, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody realizes that this is different from the other ones that have come before us.
Anything else? Guess we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
You raise your hands.
For an affirmative vote?
Okay. 3 in favor. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion fails. Is there another motion of any kind? Not?
Mayor, I would make a motion then to reduce the bill by a third. So whatever that would be, which would be around $250, I guess, just a rough estimate anyway. If my math is correct, which would probably $220, I guess. $220 would be my motion then to reduce it by that amount.
I'll second that.
A motion by Alan, seconded by George. So you just of the sewer portion of it?
Just the sewer, yeah, sewer part.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So I guess that one fails as well. Any other motions? If not, well, sorry, but didn't have the support here.
And moving on to unfinished business, item 4.1 is the front porch management lease agreement for the operation of the Prairie Island Campground. And we provided a copy of the lease to the council on, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. Additional copies here this evening, and I believe Jamie and Ann are here if you have any questions.
I make a motion to direct administration enter into the agreement with Front Porch Management.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, and seconded by George. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations. Your summer just changed.
That's an understatement.
And now, under new business, item 5.1 is the food truck ordinance amendments. We held an informational session with council on February 5th and discussed some proposed amendments. The two ordinances before you include some clarifying language about events that have a separate license agreement would be exempt from having their food trucks or food vendors have a separate license within the area. You would allow food trucks to operate within 150 feet of restaurants if the restaurant manager approves. Remove the restriction that the food vendor must maintain a fixed non-mobile operating restaurant within the city to be eligible to operate on city streets and park. Add permitted locations on city streets and parks as follows. We would add Kiwanis Shelter at Prairie Island. They could operate from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then two different options. One would be to add Levy Park, Cal Fremling Drive, and both parking lots from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. And the north part of Main Street, north of 2nd Street from 8 to 11. Or option 2 would be to establish a downtown zone, and I have a map enclosed that shows that area, and allow operations anywhere within that area from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. I would also note we have a letter of support from Emily Karash from the Main Street program, and there are two different ordinances, so if you make a motion, please specify which one.
I would make a motion to accept the proposed 4 changes along with option 2.
I will second that. Can I do an amendment right now with that? Yeah, I would second Councilwoman Alexander's motion on option 2 with the amendment to allow food trucks to operate within 300 feet instead of 150 feet.
I'm okay with that as part of my motion.
Okay. We have a motion and an amendment. 300 feet is about a city block, is that correct? Okay. Discussion on the motion? Al?
I'm not in favor of this for a number of reasons. It doesn't address what I've heard, and maybe other members of council have heard, regarding the existing restaurants that we have and the challenges that they face if this would go forward. I agree with those who have said this would provide more dining opportunities in the downtown area, but to do it in this manner, I think is not, at least for me, the way I would like the ordinance to be forwarded to help that goal. And I have some issues with the requirement, the elimination of the requirement for brick and mortar as well. So I don't support the motion or the amendment.
Okay. Jerry?
I agree with Councilman Thurley. I will not be in favor of either the motion or the amendment for the reasons that he talked about. And just a bit of history. At a period of time, we fought real hard to have that brick and mortar issue there. And also, there was a period of time that we kept it at 2. And if you recall, we had issues even with the 2. One of them was fine, but there was always issues with one of the others. So this has not been an easy process ever since we first started it. So if we throw out most of these restrictions, I think it's going to create a great deal of problems. And again, I agree with Councilman Thurley. It'd be great to have more dining options downtown, and hopefully that would bring more people. But I think that this is going to cause some issues, and I really do not like the removal of the brick and mortar portion. So I'm against both.
Okay. Michelle?
I was never in favor of the brick and mortar. I think competition breeds better everything. If I had a choice with the downtown business to not allow any new apartments in town, that would be what I would vote for. But here we have all these developments the Port Authority's bringing on board to allow more apartments. That's competition directly for my business, which has been downtown, in the city since 1982. I think for the benefit of the community, not the individual business, you allow more options. And I also don't see there to be a main issue with locating a truck downtown. Most of them are not going to choose to park in a 2-hour parking because it can take an hour to set up and an hour to take down, and by the time they do all that, there's no one to serve. So I think a lot of the concerns that our downtown businesses might be expressing is not going to come to fruition. No truck is going to set up where they wouldn't operate. And quite frankly, I think most of, if any of the 3 trucks we actually have in the town do set up downtown, it's going to still be mainly in the hours that will serve after-hour users. And I think the primary user is probably going to be the poorer college kids that occupy downtown. If they had a choice to get a burrito at a food truck and they can afford it, they're going to do that where they likely couldn't afford to sit at a sit-down restaurant. I just think it's another option, and if you want to walk and eat, here's that option. And I'm just not in favor of restricting that competition. I wasn't in favor of it then, and I'm not in favor of it now. I think this is a good option, and it's something that can be modified if we find there are problems. But I don't see trucks driving from Rochester and St. Paul to come here to serve lunch to our community. And if they do, better for us.
Jerry, why don't we have Pam weigh in, and then we'll get back to you.
And
Right,
Paul as well.
I agree with Councilwoman Alexander in that I think competition, a certain measure of competition is a very good thing, especially if we are opening Levy Park this summer. We're going to have an increased number of events. There's a lot more activity downtown. I think this is just part of the mix, and I think it's an amenity that people are coming to expect of a city that has a dynamic arts and culture kind of ambiance. I would have preferred option number 1 because I do think that the center of what's going to happen is going to be down by Levy Park. And if I were to think, okay, I'm going to go have lunch at one of these trucks, I'd like to know where it is. So if it's down there at a controlled location, that seemed to be more attractive as far as I was concerned. My one concern was that public bathroom, hand washing and public bathroom facilities for people who are using the food trucks. And that if we were to control the number, or the location, then I would request that the city install some portable, perhaps at first, bathroom facilities and also garbage containers. So, but I think that one downtown business person said to me, it's not that big a deal. It's like having a haircut on the beach. I mean, you're not going to go to the beach necessarily to get your haircut, but if you're there and you need it, then you can have your haircut. It's just like, I don't think that it seriously competes with sit-down restaurants.
No, that's 2 I've heard today. I've heard the pickle jar, and I've heard the haircut on the beach today, but I said Jerry could go next, and we'll get to Paul.
I don't want to repeat anything, and I'm sure there's other good stuff coming up, but the restroom thing is a concern. But first off, I get nervous every time we think of public restrooms. That is a whole issue in and of itself. But there is a legitimate issue about the restrooms, and what history has shown us is that they will in fact go into the establishments that happen to be open and utilize their restrooms. And those people aren't getting the revenue, yet they have the expense and the traffic of somebody using them. Chachi's is a prime example of that. That poor restaurant has been through so much with the building next door for the last X number of years. And then prior to that, it was the food truck dilemma. And that place should get a medal for survival for something, but there will be others for that. So not a big deal, very big deal for the family that's trying to run that place. Garbage, I will say that one of the places that has been a successful food truck was Rubio's. When they stand in front of us every year, or they don't speak anymore, but when they did do their sales portion for it, they took care of their own. They brought their own trash, and they brought their own trash receptacles. They even policed the area around them for quite an area. So in the event that this goes through, whether we have 2 or 22 food trucks, that's their responsibility to police their area. You pack it in, you pack it out. I think that's the way it should be. And one last thing. is the reason that the brick and mortar, that thing actually worked, the big difference is the city runs on its tax dollars, and the brick and mortar are the ones that are paying the tax dollars, and these other ones can come in. So that's another thought. Oh, and the last one, I apologize. Food trucks will be coming in from other locations if there is a market here. So there will be coming in. They come into Rushford. Food trucks come from other places, I do believe, Winona and La Crescent. But food trucks will travel on a weekly basis to go down to Rushford for their lunch crowd. So we can't just think it's all going to be homegrown. If in fact there is a market there, or at least to test the market, out-of-town people will come in, and where does that money go? It's a nice dining experience for the people that don't want to spend the extra little bit. They have their dining experience. Then they need to wash up, use a restroom. They'll go into another establishment that they didn't spend money on, and the money may go back to another town. So just things to think about on that. I shall rest.
Okay. Now we'll go to Paul.
Thank you. Actually, so I'm, torn both ways on this. I am kind of surprised that we have a letter from Main Street, and I'm hearing from restaurants who don't support. So we have basically our Main Street program and chamber supporting this change, yet we have some restaurants that don't. So I'm wondering if they're communicating with each other. I think that ultimately we're going to want to see some additional creativity with our investment in the Levy Park area. So I would like to propose potentially only going with item number 4, option 1, as a compromise or an alternative to Councilmember Borzakowski or Alexander's motion. And to just add permitted locations at the Kiwanis Shelter from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., Levy Park, California Drive, both parking lots, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Main Street north of 2nd Street. I think that would probably keep us 300 feet away from other restaurants, and it would still require the brick and mortar, and wouldn't make any other changes, just item 4.
Okay. Well, we have a motion we need to deal with
Yeah.
first. Anybody else before we vote? Al?
Yeah, I would like to say that, I don't enter this lightly, as I'm sure everybody on council has done their research and had feedback, but I did some research on other communities that have this kind of issue, and it's fairly broad spread as far as communities of all sizes. And it seems that those cities that are large cities with large population bases and a diverse desire to look at other dining options, the food trucks do well. Some places even have a food jamboree where all the trucks gather in one place and people can sample their wares. In other communities, generally Winona's size or maybe a little larger, it's a real challenge, especially for those people who have been in the business for a long time and have really put down roots and operate a brick and mortar restaurant. And, there's advantages both ways, but I'm not really swayed in this particular motion to favor it at this point. Excuse me.
George?
Thank you. I have heard from people on the issue. I've had some phone calls today, which I was unable to take, but the messages were given to me. I had some emails for it. I had some emails against it. I had some emails saying, let's try to make the best decision that we can. I think that looking at this whole thing, it's a process that has been going on. We've had the food trucks on 3rd Street, whatever. This does encompass the downtown area. I think the 300 feet pretty much, I think, can be a pretty good protection for any businesses that are there. You're looking at, you need to be a block away. That's what it's going to be now. Instead of right in front, you got to be a block away. I kind of go back to when we have steamboat days. I know it's, well, 5 or 6 day event, all on, Center Street, right down by Jefferson's, Betty Joe's, and those restaurants in those areas there. I mean, food trucks dominate that block for 5 to 6 days. I remember years ago when, and Al, you'll be able to reminisce with me on this, when they had the Mr. Softy truck. George National ran the Mr. Softy truck. He went all through town, east, west, downtown, lake, he went all over selling the ice cream cones. But yes, that is different from this here. But the reason I'm going to support this, it can be a trial. And like I say, I think the 300 feet, I believe, can solve a lot of that.
Well, I'm going to speak. I'm not going to support the motion, and I'm all in favor of expanding the food trucks, but I'm just not ready to open it up to the entire downtown. And I share some of the concerns about the brick and mortar. I think the announcement today of what's going on downtown is really exciting. I think Winona's about to take off, and in many ways in the downtown area, but I just, we've got a lot of people that have invested in these restaurants downtown that are probably doing okay, but I don't want to do anything that might jeopardize their businesses. And I think this could have an impact on that. Maybe at some point we open up the whole downtown, but I like the idea of expanding it, but including Levy Park, the Kiwanis shelter, the parking lots down there, but I'm not ready to open it up to the whole downtown, so I won't vote for it. I don't know if we're ready to vote, but it looks like we are. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those against it, say aye.
Aye.
2 to 5, motion fails. So, is there another motion? I think there was from Paul.
I'll make a motion to make the only change, item 4 and option 1.
Just point of clarification, so you are not including number 1 or 2?
Correct.
Number 1 just clarifies.
That's primarily like Steamboat Days.
Okay.
Midwest Music Fest.
Okay, right.
Okay, 1, only items 1, 4, and option 1.
I'd second that.
Okay, a motion from Paul and a second from Pam. Discussion? Michelle?
I'm opposed to this because I think it's unfair to only keep 3rd Street as the downtown street where trucks are allowed. I think then that puts that burden on the businesses that currently operate there, and when you open it up to the whole downtown, it opened up that, to the whole downtown. So are you suggesting we remove the existing locations and just do it in Levy Park, or are we gonna keep 3rd Street where we have more restaurants than 4th, as the only place where food trucks can operate? On the map, the existing map?
Well, I believe that if we were to go with this motion, the 3rd Street, the trucks on 3rd Street could be open between 8 PM and 2 AM. Okay,
But
and
that doesn't address what I'm saying. Does that mean that we're gonna only keep the restaurants on 3rd Street, and you're not suggesting that that's still 8 to 11 PM? Then they're still dealing with what we're saying we don't want the brick and mortar to deal with? So what I'm asking is, are you gonna remove that from the conditions, since there are businesses along that route that have brick and mortar? You see what I'm asking?
I thought the motion was that we keep the existing ordinance
Yes.
time and hours on 3rd Street, but add Levy Park and Kiwanis shelter.
Oh, I just read it as.
Yep.
right.
I think that's what you meant.
Well, no, number 4 says 8 to 11. Did you mean not to change the times at all? 8 AM to 11 PM?
So
Option
the
1.
Option 1.
If you add Levy Park, the times for Levy Park would be 8 AM to 11 PM, but 3rd Street would
It doesn't say
stay.
that here, so I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, so 3rd Street would stay the current times, which is
8
8
PM.
PM to 2 AM.
And they would still have to stay in a designated block?
They could be anywhere on that 3rd Street, but they have to be at least 150 feet from a restaurant that's operating.
Oh, I thought they had to have a specific location where they operated previously in their license agreement.
That was years ago. So when we had the ordinance last year,
We took that out.
we took that out. They can be anywhere on Third Street, but they typically tend to be in a certain two-block area.
I'm not in favor of that because there are brick and mortar along there, and if we're going to be even-handed, we should treat them all the same.
Al, I think you had your hand.
Yeah, I'm just kind of clarifying. I understand the ordinance. I believe I will support it. Just a question on the actual ordinance before us under, what is it, option 1, on page 5 of that, 2 subparagraph B, where it talks about the hours of operation. I guess that's where I'm a little confused. That talks about mobile food unit sales are permitted on Third Street from Kansas Street to Johnson Street between 8 a.m. Now, that was a change, so I think what I'm hearing tonight, though, is that that should be reverted to what it was prior, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., and then it talks about on heading 3 or 2, between the 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. on Cal Fremling and all of that.
Correct. We were trying to
Yeah.
make it consistent between the two
Okay.
locations, but if you wish that Third Street stay at the 8 p.m.,
Okay.
that would have to be part of the motion, whoever made the motion.
And to me, that would make sense to me, but I would ask the motion
So
presenter
Paul
if
made the
that's.
motion and Pam seconded. So if you see on page 5, we did, in the proposed ordinance, change the hours for Third Street to 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. instead of 8 p.m.
Aha, I was looking at the summary where it says 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.
So what's your wish?
8 p.m.
8 p.m.? So leaving it the same
Leave
hours?
it, leaving
Okay.
that the same.
And Pam, you're in
Yes,
agreement with
that's,
that?
I agree with that.
And just for the downtown Third Street
Third
area?
Street.
Correct.
Okay, good.
That's-
I would support that.
Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. Further discussion? George?
If they're gonna operate within 150 feet, they still need to get permission from that restaurant owner, correct? Or is 150 feet not in here now?
So
It's still in there.
It's still in
they cannot operate within 150 feet of an operating restaurant. Paul did not include in his restaurant, so they cannot be within that 150 feet
Okay.
anytime that there's an operating restaurant.
Okay.
Uh,
Al?
Just a question, we've had this before on maybe the existing one. Who really enforces a lot of these issues we've talked about tonight as far as hours of operation, locations, the requirement for trash and the, maybe even the whole health of, or safety, food safety of the particular enterprise that, the food
So
truck?
food safety would come under their food license, which is now operated through the Minnesota Department of Public Health
Okay,
in that Winona County. And as far as garbage and hours, it would be, if there's garbage, someone would make a complaint through inspections. If they're operating in a location that they're not permitted, it would be through the police department. It is city ordinance, so it would be
right.
enforced through city departments.
So anybody really could respond if they saw a violation or they apparently may have seen a violation. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? We'll vote. All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Who is opposed? 3. Motion carries.
And moving on, item 5.2 is the Agamine Park lease with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Evening, Mayor and Council. The lease in front of you tonight for Agamine Park is the latest version of a cooperative management agreement for the property that's owned by the city of Winona but is located in Wisconsin. The city and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have been working on this type of an agreement since approximately 2007. The need for this type of an agreement was identified in the comprehensive plan and has to do largely with the fact that the city owns property in Wisconsin, and so it makes jurisdictional oversight and enforcement difficult at times. So this agreement would, and this lease would address some of those issues that were identified in the comprehensive plan. And in addition, the lease would give the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Management Authority for the area related to fish and wildlife compatible uses, including hunting, fishing, environmental education, wildlife photography, wildlife observation, and interpretation. The lease is for 25 years with an option by the lessee to renew for an additional 25 years. Mary Saponsky from U.S. Fish and Wildlife is here. Should council have questions about the agreement or the lease, and should council concur with the lease, a motion to execute the document would be in order.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Michelle.
Second.
And seconded by Pam. Previous council approved this once before, many years ago, and I know
Thank
it's a
you.
new council, a new agreement, but I think this, in essence, was approved at one other time, so it's coming back after a long hiatus. And Mary, would you like to add something here?
I was hoping for a question, so.
I've got
Okay,
a question.
all right, lots of questions here. We'll start with Pam.
Well, one question is, who is the Agaming Park Committee?
There's a number of people on the committee. The last time I met was in 2013.
Oh, all right.
So there are some people that we could still call on and that we met with prior to this meeting to review the agreement. They were in general agreement with what the lease had to say, and were supportive of bringing it to council.
And my other question was, where is River Road? It's referred to as vehicular access on River Road during the winter period. But I didn't see it on this tiny map here, so I didn't know what you meant.
That's the road that if you go on to Agaming before, there's a left-hand turn that takes you to the boat houses. It would be a right-hand turn instead before you
Okay.
get there.
Speak into the
And that's where
microphone, please.
Okay.
I can't even hardly reach
Oh.
there. That's where the, so that's River Road. That's where the barricades
Okay.
are put up in the winter now.
Right. Thank you. Oh, I-
There.
Thank you.
Okay, George?
Yes, thank you. Hello again, Mary. I had the opportunity to serve on the Agaming Park Committee, and with the very honorable, the late Dr. Cal Fremling, he was our chairman, and you were on that committee with us. And since that time, like I said, it's been years since we've met, but the committee, in agreement, has, as a committee, we agreed to send this on to have you folks investigate this and see if this is something that could possibly be done. And then, of course, you brought back, yes, that it could be done. But a lot of the members on there, some have passed outside of Dr. Cal and a few others. And but it was a very interesting committee, and we had some pretty good challenges. And hopefully now this will start to bring control in that park. And just to be, just to know offhand that, now, they're managing the park and some of the enforcement, but, if somebody's over there drinking a bottle of beer or having a cigarette, you're not going to call, I'm not going to call and turn that person in to Mary or whoever, because they're not going to come screaming over there to make an arrest and try to find this person. But mainly for big, large, major offenses, yes, police action would take place. Is that safe to say?
That is safe to say.
So.
Al?
I like the educational aspect that Fish and Wildlife will be providing. I know we've worked on trying to do that, but I think you're the expertise in the whole Upper Miss Refuge anyway, and this makes eminent sense, not only from the educational perspective, but also from the enforcement perspective. So I'm definitely in favor of the agreement.
Well, I'm 100% in favor. This has been a long time coming. We've had many meetings over the last 5 years on this subject, so I'm glad it's finally coming to council. And yeah, I'll bet you are.
Paul has a...
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul?
Thanks. Thanks, Mary. I'm really happy that this is happening. For actually decades, Fish and Wildlife has helped with many, many dozens and dozens of river cleanups that the River Revival has done. And that used to be a sore spot going back into that area. And ever since the 2001 flood, it's been very difficult to get back there, but I understand that there are plenty of high clearance vehicles and off-road vehicles that are still accessing the park. And I'm concerned about the management of that, and how is that enforced? Are there infractions? Are they still allowed? What happens there?
So it's like every other law enforcement action. First we have to know about it, so it's gonna require, timely reporting of those kind of things. But refuge regulations and Ogden Park regulations at this time don't allow off-road vehicles. And so that will stay in effect, that off-road vehicles are not allowed. Right now, the river road is open in the winter, and in the agreement, we do state that if it becomes a detriment to the habitat because it is on riparian soils, if it becomes a detriment, we will eventually close that road to use by any kind of off-road vehicles or any kind of vehicles, pickups or whatever can get back there right now. So refuge regulations include ATVs, UTVs, and the one that isn't very popular is, at this time that's being very common, is fat tire bikes. So we wouldn't allow fat tire bikes across the land either, because they have a camming action. So those would be the ones that we would enforce. But as far as, hiking, motorboating around the exterior, those are all things that, unless there's a big party problem coming with those that we need reported quickly, we would handle those kind of violations.
George?
I think also too, as we discussed that, there's many entrances into that park. Just outside of coming across the old high wagon bridge, there's, what it stretches almost a long ways down towards Homer too. And there's a lot of ways into the park on the Wisconsin side, off the ice in the winter time, when it's solid, those trucks can very easily get off of there, so. And also on that sign over there, Keith, now that's kind of had some vandalism done to it. But should that sign be updated, cleaned up and stuff to add U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or is that something, Mary, that your department would do?
Our agreement actually says that we will do a joint sign at the entrance.
Okay.
And that's something that we will work with the city on to make sure it meets both of our needs. And we make signs all the time. We don't have a sign shop in Winona anymore, unfortunately, but we still make signs all the time. So
Okay.
we can certainly handle that.
And that be done this spring? Okay.
Well, I'm asking for a deadline of April 1st to have an agreement in place, and so then probably sometime shortly after that.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Item 5.3 is the Valley Oaks 7th subdivision plat and 2 resolutions.
Make a motion to adopt the 2 resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Michelle and seconded by George. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.4 is an agreement for professional services for the wastewater treatment facility, biosolids facilities and process improvements. The contract is with SEH.
I make a motion to approve the attached resolution.
Second that.
Motion by Michelle and seconded by Pam. Discussion? George?
Could Keith tell us what we're all going to be doing here?
Mayor and Council, this would be a preliminary report to look at dealing with the biosolids. If you look in the Exhibit 1, Scope of Services at the top, which is on page 15 and 21, it talks about mechanical options for thickening secondary sludge, replacing replacing and adding redundancy to dewatering, including conveyor and control system, some fire protection improvements to the anaerobic digester building, digester heating needs, replacing the original digester boiler, and then increasing biogas production through taking on fats, oils, and grease. Also to deal with in case we get the phosphorus requirement removals, this would also look at a possibility of how we should address that as well, because that's most likely coming our direction. So this would be a preliminary report. Each one of those things I just rambled through there, there's 3, maybe 4 different options out there. We want to make sure they all work together, what's the most efficient for our system. There's possibilities they may come in with a trial system, bring in a plant and see if it works with our effluent, because it varies from city to city.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.5, Federal Trails Equipment Grant Application for purchase of outdoor recreational trail vehicle.
Move to adopt the attached resolution
Second.
supporting the grant.
Motion by George and seconded by Jerry. Discussion? Al?
Yeah, what's a vehicle wrap for $3,000? That kind of caught my eye in this process.
Mayor and Council, the vehicle wrap would be an opportunity to advertise what the purpose of the vehicle is. So it would have a city logo and any other potential partners that might work with us for outdoor recreation, management, equipment or services. So it would be to advertise that as well as our commitment to developing and maintaining our trail systems.
Decals.
Yes.
You know, they're,
What?
Decals.
I thought it was maybe a protective system for the operator or something like that.
Protected from the rain.
Is this part of the federal grant that requires the vehicle wrap for that kind
It
of
does not.
notification? Okay.
So it would just be.
So this would be the city expense for a vehicle wrap of $3,000?
Potentially, and for that, again, it would be looking at ways to leverage partnership opportunities further.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. I guess I will support this, but this whole concept of doing this concerns me a little bit, that, you know, we too much perhaps look at offsetting some of those costs to the detriment of the particular item that we're dealing with, so, but that's just how I feel about it, but I'll support the motion.
Okay. Paul?
What kind of vehicle?
The vehicle that we'd be looking at is a Ford Transit full-size. So it would be a high-roof van that would be able to cover all of the equipment and tools, so storage needs hidden from the elements and other eyes to transport from, say, Prairie Island over to the Sugarloaf or to Holzinger for whatever needs we'll have, these would grow.
Related to the vehicle wrap. So I think, yeah, you know, I see a need for this coming up, especially as outdoor rec facilities are enhanced and are used more and more in the community. Would the wrap be accepting, so I'm thinking, you know, it says City of Winona Parks or outdoor rec opportunities or whatever, business sponsorships if they get their logo on as part of the wrap? That's an option.
Yes, I believe it's a developing concept as we go. So
Okay.
that $3,000 is just a rough estimate for that type of opportunity. And as we continue through the process, if we are offered the award, we'd be coming back with more specific number and detail on that.
Stay in touch.
Have that thing wrapped like a NASCAR.
That's the possibility of all the city council members' picture on that car.
That might go up a little.
Only during an election year, George.
Write the check.
That's guaranteed vandalism. on
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah, or that too, yes.
You're gonna get one of those with the coyote on a stick.
They'll be putting a big mustache on you and all kinds of stuff. Anything else? I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.6 is a contract services agreement for the design of Riverview Drive.
Move to approve the agreement,
Second that.
or attached resolution, excuse me.
Okay, motion by George, second by Pam. Questions? Okay,
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes. I noticed that under the scope of services, that the project will include reconstruction of the street as a 10-ton road with the paved right turn lanes and paved shoulders. I would like to know if we're also including ample room for bicycles and pedestrians to move between Levy Park and the Marine Art Museum.
Mayor and Council, we certainly will look into that, look if we can do that or not. This grant is not for the sake of funding that, but it certainly is a possibility. Some of the issues that get to be a problem, it's a dike. We have to deal with the core. That makes it more difficult. But can we do the room with painting? There's all kinds of options. But absolutely, we will look at it, and if we can make it happen, we will.
Thank you.
will this address any of the safety concerns at the foot of Huff Street, for example? I mean, the guardrails, that sort of stuff?
That's going to be addressed in part of the bridge project, after the bridge project.
Okay,
the corner.
so
And
that-
yes, that whole corner is going to be.
Okay, so that's not a part of this. Okay. Other questions? Paul?
I just want to second Councilmember Iden's remarks, and I have gotten calls and requests for this. I think it would be really a mistake to not consider that linkage between the Marine Art Museum and the Levy Park. I think they both need to find a way to complement each other, and that link, whatever we can do, at least if there's some indication, at the very least, of what could be done or what can't be done and why it can't be done, so that I can explain to my constituents who are members of the Marine Art Museum and who are also avid cyclists or pedestrians in town and want that link, why it can't be done.
Absolutely.
Al?
I think the mayor's question sort of alluded to it, but it talks about rebuilding or at least acquiring property at, I believe, Second and Huff, is that correct?
Correct.
For truck turning lanes and radiuses and things. What do you anticipate that to be?
Primarily just making it a larger radius for turning.
Okay.
Right now, it's just a real sharp
Right.
corner. It's just to make that so be more gradual corner. So the trucks aren't going to go out and
Right.
get back in.
What about the railroad tracks?
Yep, that is also will be addressed. Part of the bridge project, part of that trail there, and this as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.7 is the yearly rental fee for small cell wireless co-location on city light poles.
Make a motion to introduce the attached ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by George. Discussion? Al?
Are the fees set by the state?
Yes.
Okay. So again, we're kind of have our hands tied on this.
We wouldn't do this at all if we could get
Right.
away with it.
Exactly. I agree.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Carries.
Item 7.1 is council concerns.
Michelle?
I have none, thank you.
Jerry? Al?
I would like to remind folks that our wonderful city central garage has, in most instances, a huge pile of sand. So if we've all been looking at our streets and driveways today and yesterday, that would be a wonderful place to go and get your free, within reason bucket of sand.
The limit is 2 5-gallon buckets,
Two-
and it's a sand salt mixture.
Sand salt mixture, thank you. So sand salt, 2 5-gallons, and then everybody will be safe going down to the mailbox, or wherever you're going.
Okay. Pam?
Nothing tonight.
Paul?
I want to just acknowledge the work that the ice park is doing in bringing different people to the community, and that endeavor, and there was a great write-up by a former Daily News writer, C.D. Bylander, on the park. I think it was a great article, and
The Star Tribune.
Star Tribune, yep. And, it's great, we're getting notoriety around the region, and that's one of the many things that Outdoor Rec is doing for the community.
George?
Thank you. I would just like to acknowledge the passing of Dale Northrup. Dale, a longtime Peerless Jane employee, strong car enthusiast, never missed a car show, and he was very instrumental in making the Goodview Activity Group a success. Condolences to his wife Joyce and their children on Dale's passing, and he will be missed. Thank you.
And under the consent agenda, there are 4 items. The approval of the minutes from February 5th, the final adoption of an ordinance to rezone 850 East Front Street, an ordinance to rezone the county ditch number 3 and city lift station, and an ordinance for handicap parking at 163 Walnut.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Alan, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. So we have a few things to sign here.
Maybe a few.